Hi, this is Bonnie, and I'm going to try something new today, and I'm going to be using a rubber stamp by Sherri Baldy, and I think this one is, I don't know if this one's got a name to it, but at the top it says Celebrate Today, and this is what the cover of the image looks like, and what the actual image looks like is like this. That it comes with. I think it works better if I leave this white behind it so you can see. And the reason it's a little bit dark is because I've already stamped with it. But that's what the image looks like that I'm going to be using. I am also going to be trying something with the STAys-On ink. So obviously I'm not going to be using my Copic markers because you can't use Copic markers with these. And this is Timber Brown. And basically what I'm trying to do is I found on YouTube that you can stamp on cups and things like that using a stamp and a STAys-On ink. So I found this teapot, if you want to call it a teapot, or a coffee pot at Goodwill. It was really good price to give it a try, and it's $3.99. And so what I did before I started filming is I thought I'm going to give this a try. Based upon some of the things that I saw on YouTube, and this is what I came up with. And I think you can kind of see it's a little bit dark around her eye a little bit. One of the things that they ask you to do on YouTube is they say not to stamp directly on this. They basically tell you to put your image on an acrylic block and then roll it on top of it. I found it didn't work, and one of the good things I found out, the other thing you can keep handy, is rubbing alcohol, because that will remove any mistakes that you make. And you can also see there's a little bit missing here, but I like the look, and I think I'm going to be able to make this work, and I was going to share that with you as I went ahead and did that. One of the things I was going to show you right away is how I added that picture to it. Basically what I did is I used the acrylic and I stamped it, and then I picked it up and I rolled it across. It worked better because I tried it both ways and I couldn't get the whole image to stay on. This was the best result that I had for when I was trying it. So I thought while I was filming, I'm going to do this small one and see how that works. And again, like I said, if I make a mistake, I have this rubbing alcohol that works really well to remove my mistake. So I'm stamping up this image, and this image actually came with this set. It's right here up at the top, and I just want to make sure I get that inked up well. And I am actually going to roll this one across, and I want it to go like that. And see, let's see how we can make that work. Yeah, see, and that's what I'm telling you. I'm not really impressed with keeping it on the block, and you can see what I'm talking about. Again, I'm going to show you right on as I'm filming. I'm going to take that right off, and just want to make sure I don't rub against what I've already got on there. And I'm going to try it the other way, which is like I told you, I stamp on this. You can see that. I'm going to stamp on that, and I'm going to take it right off. Now I know the very edge of it, especially if I get on my finger, I could lose a little bit of it. But I found that I did better this way, and this might be hard for some of you to do, but it worked much better for me. You just have to be very careful when you go to do this. And it can wiggle just a little bit, and it'll be a little bit blurred. Let's check. Yeah. Whoops. Of course I drop it. That's what I want, and I can get that off. That little bit. And I can even use a Q-tip if I want to get that little bit off. See? And that's the look. And even though right there, what you use next is a permanent markers, fine point permanent markers, and I can draw that in if I want to, or I can add anything to that I like to add. And I actually did start, you can see that, probably not very well on here, but if you can see that little bit, that leaf, I did start drawing just to give it, to see what it did do. So I'm going to continue working on this and show you the progress as I work on it. So, and I also give the details. Basically, you have to heat set this in the oven on a cold, start out cold, and then you let it be in the oven for like 30 minutes. But I'll give you all those instructions on the video. So there you go. I'll show you my progress. Okay, so I have finished my project, and I colored using permanent markers, the fine point permanent markers. And this is the top of the teapot or coffee pot that I used to make the project. And after I finished coloring, I'm going to tell you what I did in order to set this into the porcelain on here. Is somebody else on YouTube has given these instructions, and what they said is you need to put your colored project into a cold oven. You turn your oven on to 350 with your project in there when it's cold. You put it in there when it's cold, and you turn your oven on to 350, and then you let it bake for 30 minutes, and then you keep it in your oven until it has completely cooled down, and then you take it out. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that you're using porcelain or ceramic, and it could crack. So that's what I did. It is supposed to be washable now, but I'll be honest with you, I am going to use mine more for decorative use, and I'm not really going to probably wash it. But it said after that you should be able to hand wash your project after you set that, heat set it in the oven. So this is the top, and this is part of the stamp set that I used for this project, and it worked really good. It's flat, but I still did it the same way that I showed you at the beginning of the film, of the video. So anyway, I'm going to tip this over. In order to do that, I have to take this off, and I'm going to show you my finished project. If you remember, we stamped this just a bit ago, and I went ahead and colored her in. Now the hardest thing about this is finding a skin color and to make it look decent. And what I did was I colored pink and yellow together, and I also used a little bit of the really light blue and pink for the cheeks, and I kind of like try to do blending in that way, because you really can't do a lot of blending with permanent markers like you can with Copics. So in the case of like the hat, excuse me, what I did was I went through with my brown, I'm going to show you what these look like. I went through with my brown Sharpie ultra fine point is what I used. And what I did is I just did some lines through with the dark, and then I came back in with the yellow. And because when it does touch each other, it does start to blend a little bit and pull that, because these were definite lines that you could see. But once I came back in with the yellow and started pulling it, it would pull a little bit of the color out, so it would blend slightly, but it's nothing like what a Copic would do. So I did want to show you, I did use one permanent marker that was not a fine point or an ultra fine point, because the ultra fine points, I could not find the light pink. So I used this light pink for the face, and then like I showed you, I used the yellow. And that's basically what I did, how I colored her up, and stamped this one too. And that's really the finished project. It was really, really fun. I will take standing up pictures so you can see what it looks like. It just does not fit in my screen to hold it up unless I turn my film, I guess. The other thing I wanted to say was, because this was so tall, when I went to put it in the oven, I did take one of the shelves out, and then I laid this down. I didn't want it to be too close to the heating element. I was just trying to protect it as best I could. So I actually baked it with it laying down on top of a cookie sheet. And I also used foil on top of my cookie sheet. There wasn't really any reason. I just thought I'm just going to do it that way just because that's what I'm used to doing. One other thing I noticed is when I went to bake this, I don't know how to say this, I did not thoroughly clean this before I started stamping, and I probably should have. So there was a little bit of residue from, I don't know if it was from handling or from dust. And I don't know if you can kind of see it a little bit around the rim here. I have found that that magic eraser, Mr. Clean, works for everything. So I just use a little bit on there, and for the most part, it cleans it right up. So that was pretty amazing to me because it kind of was baked in. So it just cleaned that right off for me. So again, that was just a little tip. I want to remind you that every month there's a stamp of the month at My Besties. Sherri Baldy has that. You can sign up for that. And that's what this was. This was a stamp of the month. And if you signed up, it will automatically get sent to you, payment through PayPal. And they're different every month, and